Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making millions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashlie Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Clint, how are you?
I'm good.
We're currently sitting here with the tiniest Pomeranian I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
I know, he's so small.
As you listen to this, I wish you could see him. His name is Bravo.
And you're going to probably hear him whine periodically, so...
But I'm already so in love with him. He did so good last night.
Yeah, surprisingly, he did. I mean, for a puppy, he did really, really good. I mean, our dog Beretta was more mad at him having crybabies than anything.
I know. So that's what we're contending with over here on this side of the microphone. But today I wanted to talk about what happens to first responders who never process their trauma.
You know, it's really something that you start seeing people, you start lacking sleep, you start leaning into bad habits, you start having kind of that, you start like almost setting up these guards that you're not even aware that you're doing.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand that this is not a hypothetical. This is actually a pattern that has a predictable path. And I think for too many first responders, that path runs directly through broken marriages, deteriorating health, substance abuse, emotional shutdowns. And, I think that too, a lot of the times this is something that could lead to a decision that can't be undone. Yeah,
I think we start, the amount of traumatic incidents that we see on a regular basis, like, we have those outlets of, the debriefs or the dark humor, the joking about things that most people would look at us like, what the hell?
Yeah, the psychological concept here is called cumulative trauma accumulation. And this happens when traumatic experiences are repeatedly suppressed. A lot of the times we see people minimize them or they just avoid them altogether.
And with that avoidance, it starts leaning into us, having unhealthy kind of outlets like the drinking or the making, buying items all the time. There's such a breadth of different things we lean into, but in all reality, this is why it's so important to start the conversation and normalizing, okay, this is what we saw. And it's not, I think everyone thinks how do you feel about this incident? And kind of leaning into that kind of what we've been ingrained in, seeing it on TV and seeing it on like talking to a psychiatrist of how it's supposed to be. In all reality, there's so many healthy avenues for us to get that trauma expressed out without having to go into this is how I feel.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of first responders, you're trained to push through, to move on, to stay functional, and to basically defer processing. And when that happens, and it happens throughout the entirety of your career, then having that essence of deferring constantly makes it to where it makes it difficult to actually be able to process anything. So you continuously stack on more and more.
It's like, I look at it this way. It's like we go to those calls for service. You go from a high tense shooting, a homicide, and dealing with a complete really like tense situation to dealing with, just a common theft or this kid's causing a problem in my neighborhood, and you're going to from all these highs and these lows. And I think we start doing the same thing with the trauma that we're exposed to, and that's where it's not healthy in a lot of incidents.
Yeah, and the way that this actually looks, the way that I see it actually transpire for a lot of people is I see people functioning at a high level for years, but then they're quietly accumulating this unsustainable psychological debt.
Yeah, and it's, I look at it as like on our Aura rings that we have, like you start accumulating this sleep debt when you don't have a good night's sleep, or you don't go to bed as early. And it's something I started watching more recently. And the other day I was like 8 hours of sleep debt. And I think the same thing comes down to when we're exposed to all these incidents where you start drawing out from that savings account. You start drawing out from your personal kind of feelings and emotions and of what you can truly envelop as a human being.
How the heck did you get 8 hours delinquent?
I don't know, but now I'm almost even, so it's good. My savings bank of sleep has really caught up to me.
There's a lot of things that can happen when trauma goes unprocessed. And the first is that the body starts to carry what the mind refuses to process. We also see things like our relationships start to absorb the weight that was never addressed directly, because some people start to lash out on the people that they care about the most.
And that's where, it could be the lashing out. And if you're sitting here listening to this, like we think of, it's these egregious signs. It's me lashing out, or it's this, but it could also be you withdrawing from any incident, to where you're kind of sitting back and not wanting to deal with anything, not wanting to go to that family function, not wanting to put yourself out there because you just feel emotionally and physically drained.
Another thing that I see is that numbness and explosion become the only two default settings, because for a lot of people, everything in between requires processing in order to be able to maintain. So that emotional range narrows until only two extremes are accessible. And
I think that's where it comes into putting in the work and finding those practices of having those healthy outlets, having those ways of not being able to revert back to the numbness or the withdrawal or anything, or the lashing out, and being able to start having those healthy outlets. I mean, going to the gym and working out, talking with your buddies, not leaning into those negative kind of habits that we typically go to.
And here's the thing. A lot of times the career ends and then the trauma finally has nowhere to be left to hide.
And I think that's what you see a lot with retired officers is I've spoke with many retired officers, and one thing that as soon as they retire, they start having these vivid dreams of these past incidents and of being in law enforcement. And it's like everything's pulling you because you don't have this normal routine anymore, and you keep drawing back to what you know. I mean, think of it this way, like you've been in a career for 30 years of the amount of exposure that you've seen in these traumatic incidents, or just, it could be an extreme incident or a minuscule incident. You don't ever have that loop closed if you don't effectively address them as they go along.
And there are a lot of reasons why processing it now rather than later are super important. But one of the big ones is that every year of deferral basically adds this compounding weight that makes processing very hard and not easier.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, with like the sleep bank, it's, you start drawing out. It's if you have a savings account where you're storing your money and you're saving it for in case the rainy day, and you're actively drawing out of that account, and you're not able to effectively, draw anymore because that account's empty. You're in the negative balance, and you want to be able to remain in that positive balance and draw from your normal bank and see how you can start backfilling behind into that savings account.
Yeah, I think it's important too to understand that the people that you love are already paying for what you've not processed. So we see people that make all of the excuses as to why they don't think they need it or why it's not a big deal. We hear the term "I'm fine" repeated over and over again. And what we need to realize is that that's actually avoidance when there are other things that are going on. And the last thing we want is for the people that we care about the most to have to be the ones that are struggling sometimes more than we are when it comes to how simple it might be to actually address these issues as they come along.
And I think one of the biggest things is, especially with your peers, with your partners, your subordinates, whoever it may be, sharing that time and space and not going into the mindset of, well, I want to sit here and I want to really dig in to see how you're doing. It's just being there for one another and supporting one another.
Your physical health, it cannot afford to keep absorbing what your mind is refusing. And, the book is right where it says the body always keeps the score. And I think that it always eventually presents the bill.
And a perfect example of this too is, officers have indigestion all the time. They have sleep apnea. They start leaning in, and there's a multitude of health problems that can come with it. And your body is actually effectively reacting to the trauma that you have been exposed to because you've never worked through it.
My little puppy, he's getting hot, but he doesn't want to be put down. Ultimately, I think that there are effective treatments that exist that are specifically designed for first responder trauma. And this isn't about lying on a couch and talking about your childhood. It's actually target evidence-based recovery that is accessible to all first responders. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.